Oh dear, I'm out of breath. So you could hypothetically blame the women of Birmingham for this dreadful situation, but it wouldn't be fair. In the history, of course, of the action we're taking, we did obtain sting before Kurgan, so David Fern couldn't have been beheaded by me at the point he made his decisions, so his decisions were obviously in any kind of reasonable legal sense unreasonable. If you don't have a large steel bar in the shape of a crucifix, then it's rather hard to behead people, so if you haven't got a large weapon, you don't have that capacity, do you? So the average bureaucrat doesn't have those, so by buying a large steel bar that's sharpened, you're better than a bureaucrat, aren't you? So if you have a large steel bar that's sharpened and you're bigger than the bureaucrat, they're already not going to be much of a match. If you pair that with FPV drones and rifles, then the bureaucrat has effectively no defence, and if their defence is, well, I'm afraid I'm upset at your behaviour, sir, then in a legal sense, after Cardboard Neil versus Lloyd's Bank, nobody actually cares. So if a criminal has gained access to a bank, and your bank manager says, hello, this person's a crook, can you remove them from the bank? And the bank manager goes with his little friend into an office and says, oh, well, this guy's asking too many questions, let's get rid of him by conducting some kind of absurd theatre. But it then goes to court, the court looks at your theatre and says, well, no, we're not impressed, and you then get dinged for 800,000 quid, a trip to the banking regulator, which of course governs the British banking industry, and therefore, the entire money network that's flowing through the country down to this one guy. So because this guy got struggle sessioned in an office, everybody in the entire country, when these people show up, can say, I'm sorry, I've actually looked through the literature on this, I just don't care what you think, you don't belong here, either you go or I go, and given that you're totally useless, I'm going. If this causes a loss to your organisation, then, well, clearly I don't care. Plus, the fact you've shown up to intimidate me and my colleagues means we should actually sue the bank or whatever organisation you're working for, and there should have ought to be compliance teams looking out for these people. So the analogy is like a vampire. They come and knock on your door and say, okay, can you let me in, can you let me in? And you let them in. Of course, they run around producing these moronic reports and struggle sessioning new employees and causing all these problems. But the thing is, in Birmingham, we're used to dealing with loan sharks, and loan sharks don't have a code of conduct. You can't appeal to the loan shark regulator. It's a bloke who loans people money at high interest and threatens to kill them if they don't pay up. So guys like me are looking out for those kind of people with illegitimate authority and removing them via police. So when a leisure centre manager says, oh, our policy is not to call police, sir, as if you've just shown up yesterday when you are the most senior person in the compliance team, this imbecile is getting removed from the department because she's bent. I assure you, if the police are called, they're going to be turning up in the sort of instance we deal with when you can knock on a door and have anything from child welfare concerns to dead bodies or dead decomposing bodies, given it's Birmingham at the moment. So I assure you, police are going to be on hand given the job we do. They're now panicking though because they've lost control of their data. So if you're intelligent, in fact the more intelligent you are, the more you can do with data, the more you can play around with it and make correct inferences about the nature of the world. So we're in Edinburgh again, so here's Edinburgh, there's the castle, and there's Birmingham down there. So that's the entire court service in a decaying Lenovo laptop. Now, like Neo in the Matrix, it'll take me sort of 6 months to teach how to use the databases. But if you gave it another 10, 15 years after that, you could basically have a Hawkeye view of the city, just sort of analyse it from space. Think about the political ecology, think about the sort of people who live there, think about industry, think about all sorts of matters, and come to the conclusion, as the most senior bureaucrat in Birmingham, that it should be levelled from space. So if Elon Musk could give us in space warfare terms, you don't need a bomb, you have just an iron bar effectively. You drop it from space, and because of the force, when it hits the Earth, it creates like a huge explosion and kills loads of people. And you can have tiny little particles can do that. So you get Musk to drop one on the council house with John Cotton inside after a death penalty referendum. So the British vote for it, and we just deal with Birmingham Labour in a very, very funny way. So firstly, we'll try the funny Waco strategy. If that doesn't deal with John Cotton, we'll just shell him from space. So as the final projectile that wipes out Birmingham Labour forever and lets us get the country back. This is, by the way, sort of semi-official policy. So when I went down to the Hobbesian Decay of the State conference, I did sort of say, well, can I lead the counter-revolution? And people said, yeah, fine. So you've got senior reform people there agreeing with me, so I assume that was an honest statement. It's on camera, so there you are. But anyway, if any people in Britain are still fans of the Boy Scouts, there's going to be a new merit badge coming, which is drone scouting. So you buy your scout trooper a Czech FPV drone. I don't know if the British make them yet. Cost you about £1,000 to £2,000 on Amazon, and they're fun for the kids. So you put VR goggles on your face, and they can pilot a real thing, an actual piloted object with cameras on, and you can see a bird's eye view of the Earth around you. So your child, because we are such an intelligent and advanced civilization, can now fly. Right, their primate brain can be hijacked, in fairness, by a camera, but they'll still have the vision that your ancestors would have dreamed of, which is flying unencumbered like a bird over places like this. But they can't do that because other people will strap grenades to these things, weapons, knives, they'll spy on us, they'll do all sorts of malicious things with drones, and because the government is dangerous, we have no drone defence policy. Given that the Russians are apparently currently in free fire, that is not a very good idea. So that's going to be rectified by the government quite soon, and Burnham is in Ukraine in a polo shirt while the managing director of Bumstead Council hides in a bunker somewhere. So I don't think things are going too well for the British in the current conflict either. That can be rectified, though, by the British stiffening their backs. So if our leadership class are ignorant, corrupt, traitorous parasites, we can just kill them. So in British counter-revolutions, they tend to be very, very violent because we're on an island. So if the world is going to play Thunderdome on Britain, you're talking about effectively the Finns plus English language. So people who are probably in general pretty scary, and most of these people not in England because they're currently in Belfast, repelling people who turn up, say, give me what you have, and the people of Belfast say, we've been doing this longer than you know, and they go. But given the history of Birmingham, they've had to Sovietise it, so there is no way the security services can, of course, do anything about it. They can't police a football match. Everybody in the country and the world knows it, so of course what happens in commie regimes always happens. The Christians bugger off first, and everyone else looks at the place and says, oh right, yeah, I see what's happening, and they all leave. So the managing director is holding this magical substance over the head of the city called equity, which of course isn't real, it's just a word game. So everyone's worshipping the managing director's golden calf, all the equity they're going to get, while all the money is sucked out of the city, it decays into ruin, and everybody's saying just flee to anywhere they can. But while other people are fleeing out of the country, some of us are saying, well, we actually have a responsibility not to do that. I mean, I don't know what our governing class has been doing, but clearly there are so many of them that are controlled by various foreign interest or paid for in various ways that the country cannot continue under these lines. We clearly haven't got a functional home office, so we haven't got a border, so we are not a country. Until that's rectified, the British state then just doesn't function. So if you can get the courts in Birmingham to engage in something resembling the British legal process, good luck. When there is a law firm with your name on it and you can't get access to a legal representative because Deborah Agentieri, again whoever that is, has declared herself some kind of authority and that is unchallengeable by the state, then this is clearly absurd. It's just ridiculous in any kind of civilised society. So for the benefit of everybody on the planet, Birmingham is now a choose-your-own-adventure game. So one of those things you used to give to kids. You read a storybook and you get different choices depending where you go. And of course you can run into pits and die and get eaten. But if you play your cards right and actually find the managing director, you might actually be able to set off the Second Enlightenment and save people from what is currently happening to the British. So good luck at finding this disgusting demon. I haven't found her all week or since November, but if you can get it by Friday, that'll be pretty good. In the English Civil War last time, it was 55 days, I think, was the number. That's long gone in terms of Roni, but I think the problem is she may not be speaking to Charlie for some reason. So if an agent of the British state can go into Birmingham, just make sure they run on British lines, make sure they're following Nolan's, the commissioners have outlined we have to. So everyone in the local authority, to maintain their pension and not go to jail, has to have a duty of candour to explain exactly what's been happening within the local authority. Everyone along the way, of course, has been doing that, I'm sure. And of course, I've got, quite a bit of evidence at this point. Let's be fair. I mean, their databases are just full of me tearing them apart. But if we can get a solicitor, of course, to go through the reams of paperwork, database evidence, eyewitness testimony, film, documents. We can sort of get some of this resolved, but we would have to do glasnost in terms of John Cotton's political career. So his colleagues, so we're going to have a Khrushchev, so someone comes out and says, we already knew John Cotton was bent and just wanted money, Chinese money. He goes to jail. Oh, right, commie glasnost with Stephen Kotkin and whoever else wants to come. Helen's pretty useless. We de-Sovietise Birmingham, the kulaks come back, and the British win in the end. So there's your positive vision, and you say, well, can we do it? You need one artillery piece and some police. So if Peter Hitchens says, OK, we want to reboot the police force, well, it's very easy to do that, isn't it? Intersection activists are banned from your police force. That's very easy, isn't it? We do not allow subversives in the police. No, get out. So you reboot it from scratch, Pelian principles, again, that sort of thing. And then you've got a compliant state again, so you've got the state enforcement arm, but against who these people defer to. So if you have no head of state at the moment, effectively, the country is sort of like in a mental flotation tank, isn't it? The buildings are still here, but the sort of nature of the country is kind of ephemeral and wavy because nobody can govern it effectively. But this could be resolved quite quickly if anybody in the country cares about it. Just find these people, ask them about the sort of literature they're promoting towards children based on taxpayers' receipts after a national crisis, and you can tell the people running the local authority are not interested in the country itself, are here just to take from us effectively, have no affection for us, and clearly must be removed at some point via force if they won't leave peacefully. The current policy proposals are a mix of both, so carrot and stick. The stick is, well, this is Britain, what you hear you do as you're told, if you're hostile you'll be removed, and the carrot is, well, there are various sort of pro-social global projects we could be involved in. So to strengthen global security, we could move our industrial base out of England, so we can have an industrial base in Birmingham as an existing shithole, and we can move things to new African colonial projects and that sort of thing, so we can have a proper industrial base, a proper workforce who are treated decently in the way the British tend to, but we can then expand our reach and get our footing a bit more. We'll do it in a perfectly humane manner as you expect us to, but the triangular bit goes in circle once more, I'm afraid. So we've thought about it quite a bit. If our institutions are being Sovietised and the anchor point is in biology, then that has to be resolved by some means, and we're doing it in sort of a Gileadite sense as probably the best option you're going to have. So you can put that to people like Sewell, see what he says, and go from there. This will be resolved, though, peacefully and sensibly, I would suggest, by midday Friday. So Cotton is buggered off. If Roney is going to be hiding in a bunker somewhere, Birmingham Labour's fuel the bunker needs to be fumigated, doesn't it? So if you don't need a flamethrower, just go and find this woman and pull her out and ask her basic questions. She'll be somewhere in the world. She can't be literally hiding. She could be walking up here in any moment because she's a senior bureaucrat overseeing a £5 billion budget, so she cannot just vanish. Yes, and also, so this isn't too aggressively angry. The trigger point was making the cannon pretty again, so none of this works unless it's a beautiful multi-generational cannon. So again, the first cannon is just a British artillery piece, but then we say, well, in 100 years' time, the most beautiful cannon you've ever seen is pointing at Birmingham, willing to blow it out of the sky if any evil is ever detected by the British there ever again.